We've looked at myths in a number of Zelda games like Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, and Tears of the Kingdom. And today we will look at another Zelda title, Twilight Princess, the first one I ever played, because it's filled with all kinds of dark secrets and myths. For example, can you grab an arrow mid-air with the Clawshot? Will the lantern attract the golden bugs? Can you shoot the hawks you summon with your bow? And will rolling with the iron boots damage enemies? Well, let's find out. And for those that haven't noticed yet, my voice is a bit rough, so here we go. Before we begin, if you want to be sure that your claim, myth, or idea is featured in a video, then be sure to become a member, because then your comment is at the top of my list. Aside from that, there are many other perks like being featured in the credits, getting videos early, and a shout out at the end of the video. So become a member today and support the channel. Now, let's begin. Number 20. One of the weirdest mechanics that is seen in Twilight Princess has to be the hawks that you can summon to either attack something or grab an item. It is used and seen quite a bit in the very beginning of the game, but after that, you rarely see or use them. And in the later games, it is never seen again. So it's a bit odd to say the least. However, what can these hawks grab? We can see that they can grab this crib, but can they also grab cuccos for you? Well, let's give it a shot. I went to Ordon village to summon a hawk to grab this cucco for me, which was harder than I thought it would be. But when it finally flew straight at it, I could see that the eagle was able to grab it, and the cucco was unharmed as well. At that point, it flew back at me and handed it over. So yeah, you can grab cuccos using an eagle without any issues. Number 19. Every Zelda game has hidden areas, and Nintendo really does their best to make them hard to find, but still it is often quite easy to spot them. I mean, in the N64 games, they just created holes everywhere in the ground that were usually hidden by boulders or grass, but still finding them was easy. However, in Twilight Princess, it all became a bit harder due to the new wolf form, because you have a new ability that allows you to see places where you can dig, and sometimes these lead to new areas. And I heard folks online say that a hidden cave can be found close to Elden Bridge, so I went there to look for it. Now, quite quickly, I found this strange looking patch of land, and when I became a wolf, I could dig there, so I did that. And yeah, I found a weird cave filled with bombfish as well as skullfish, and aside from that, some rupees could be found. But overall, it wasn't that exciting, so while it was true, I wasn't really that impressed. Number 18. Easter eggs are a staple of video games, and Nintendo especially loves them. I mean, just look at all the titles out there. Every single one has a reference or design that alludes to another Nintendo game or franchise. And of course, stuff like this can also be found in Twilight Princess. And apparently, if you go to the Gerudo desert, you can see Yoshi's head in the distance. Well, at least something that looks like it at least. Now, I had never seen this before, so I went there looking for this odd reference that you can see at Lake Hylia. And after some scouting around, because I only had one picture to go on to find it, I saw this dead tree and huge rock that were supposedly a reference to Yoshi. Now, I didn't really see it. This doesn't look like Yoshi's head whatsoever, and I think that the people who believe this just see what they want to see. Which means that this claim is false, but I bet that some of you in the comments will disagree with me. Number 17. When Nintendo went over to the world of 3D, they decided to add a bunch of new things to the games that they either had never experimented with before or messed around with just a little bit. And one of those was fishing. Sure, it was seen in Link's Awakening, but man oh man, they expanded upon it in the 3D titles. In Ocarina of Time, we got the fishing hole, and when Twilight Princess came out, they took it all a step further. They added bait, a gigantic fishing hole, a lot more fish, and so much more. Really, they went all out with Twilight Princess. But apparently you can also fish for items, like the bombfish that can be found in some areas like the Lakebed Temple. So I went to the cave that we had found earlier and tried to catch a couple. And with very little effort, I was able to reel them in. Really, it was much easier than I thought it would be, and you can even keep them. So this way you can farm bombs, although it does take ages. But still, this claim is true. Number 16. When I was hanging out with fellow Zelda YouTubers like Zeltec, Commonwealth Realm and HMK, I was asked what my favorite Ganondorf boss fight in the entire franchise was. And back then, this was in 2019, I said Twilight Princess. And my opinion on this hasn't changed one bit. This fight covers all the bases. A bit of tennis, a Wolf Link section, a battle on horseback, and an awesome one-on-one sword fight to the death with a great finishing move. Really, it can't get any better than this. However, there's a way to cheese the final section of the fight. It is said that the fishing rod can be used to distract Ganondorf, allowing you to strike. Now, I had heard of this before and even tried it as a kid, but still I wanted to show it off in this video because it's so weird. It works really well and can make the fight much faster, and in the end, I have no idea why he cares so much about it. So the next time you fight him, give this a shot, because man oh man, he really loves fishing. Number 15. When I was down in this dark and dank cave, I saw that another type of fish could be found in these waters, the skullfish. A piranha-like being that nibbles at you, which can be really annoying. However, you can also catch them while fishing. So when I was there to get the bombfish, I also tried to get the skullfish. And as you can see right here, they will instantly attack anything that enters the water, including a fishing hook. However, as soon as you catch it, you can't really do much with it. Link will let it go, and it will flop on the ground trying to get back into the water. So yeah, cool, but pretty useless. Number 14. In the Zelda series, one of the most interesting items is the hookshot. You can use it to grab items, get over gaps, and pull enemies towards you or get close to them. However, after making a bunch of videos on the N64 titles and moving over to Twilight Princess, I thought to myself, what happens if I use the Clawshot on enemies? I mean, I can remember it working well on a number of enemies seen in the sky. But what about boblins, just to name one? Well, I tried to grab one, but the result was disappointing to say the least. Sure, it stunned him for a bit, but aside from that, it did nothing! So in many ways, this game is very different compared to previous and future titles, because the Clawshot is nowhere near as useful in combat this time, which made me a bit sad. Number 13. At the beginning of this video, we talked about the hawks that are seen throughout the game, and while they are cool, they are kind of useless. But when I was there, I noticed something. If you look up, then you can see that these hawks are flying around right above you. And this gave me an idea, a very dark idea. Can you hit them with your bow as they are roaming the skies? Well, I decided to try and hit one, which took a while because they are quite hard to hit, but I was able to hit them multiple times. Well, it looked like that at least. But as you can see, the hawk didn't care at all. So while you can shoot them, they have no hitbox when they are up there. And so you can't harm or kill them, which kind of makes sense since they are allies and not enemies. So unlike a Gwei, you can't touch the hawks whatsoever. Number 12. Now, while I'm not a big fan of the fishing in the Zelda games, because to be honest, I don't really care about it, I do think it is relaxing, especially in Twilight Princess. It can be kind of fun and slows down the game in a good way. Just look at this. However, while Hena is nice to you, her bird Purdy isn't. He constantly insults you, and in general, he's just a jerk. But I heard that you can also rattle his cage by rolling into it. And if you do this too often, Hena will even become pissed. So after hearing that, I knew I had to try this. When I first rolled into the cage, she was annoyed by it, but that was kind of it. However, when I continued, she started to get mad. And then, after she uttered her final warning, I tested her one more time. And yeah, she basically exploded! She yelled at me that I was a jerk and kicked me out. Luckily enough, she does cool down, so you can just re-enter afterwards. And all of this shows that the claim is 100% true. Number 11. One thing I miss from Twilight Princess is all the custom moves. Now, I will admit that the combat in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom is really good, but man oh man, Twilight Princess! In this game, the former hero teaches you some of the coolest sword fighting moves I have ever seen in the world of gaming. A shield bash, crazy finishing move, a helm splitter, jump strike, and so much more, which are super useful in the game. However, there's apparently one attack that you can perform from the very beginning of the game that is never mentioned whatsoever: the roll attack. All you do is roll and press B during it. This will make Link lunge forward with his sword, stabbing any foe in front of him. Now, I never really used this, which makes sense because no one ever mentions that this is even possible. But when I tried it, Link did exactly what was promised. And man, it is super effective. As you can see, I'm taking care of these bokoblins in seconds. Just roll attack and perform an ending blow. I love this, because now I have one more move to pull off in my next playthrough. Number 10. Some of the myths I find online make a lot of sense to me, so I expect them to be true, and this next one is exactly like that. I saw claims that the iron boots will affect flight when you sail down with a cucco, and this sounded very logical. So when I was in Ordon village, I grabbed a chicken and jumped down to see what would happen. And yeah, as expected, the iron boots made the descent a whole lot faster. I fell to the earth right away, which could actually be useful during some of the minigames, like Flight by Foul. So a fun little claim that could actually help. Number 9. When Nintendo made this title, they wanted to improve upon the horse riding, which can be seen everywhere. There are multiple sections where the main focus is fighting enemies while on horseback, especially when taking on the boblins who ride on boars. And one thing I always liked is that you can ride those boars as well. It is even required to reach the Arbiter's ground. You need to ram through a number of barriers to get there. But I wondered, can you also break some of the other barriers seen in the game? For example, close to Eldin Bridge, there are loads of flimsy wooden barriers, so can I break those while riding a boar? Well, I grabbed one and drove it right into this wooden barrier, which ended horribly because it didn't work at all, which was a bit disappointing. So I tried it again to see if I just messed up, but no, it once again ended in disaster. So yeah, this doesn't work, and I have no idea why. I mean, it doesn't make sense, but whatever. Number 8. Rupees are crucial in most Zelda games. Sure, at some point you have too many, but without them you are doomed as well. So you often try to collect as many as you can, and in a game like Twilight Princess you can always use them to become immortal, because the magic armor runs on them. And of course Nintendo hid these things everywhere. And I saw someone online claim that you can find a silver rupee in Kakariko village by shooting this bell. Now when I heard this, I believed it immediately, because I had actually done this back in the day when I was younger and first played through the game. And as you can see right here, it works, and this person even does it very fast without using bomb arrows. So if you haven't done this before, give it a shot. Although I will say it is only possible during a certain section of the game, because at some point, Midna won't help you anymore when you try to get up there. But it is real. Number 7. While many people criticize Twilight Princess for being too dark, because some sections are just shades of black, I find this a bit harsh. Because if you look at the game and the different places, items and armor sets, you can see that they are hyper detailed. The Zora armor from this game is still my favorite by far, and so I often wear it in the game because it just looks good. However, it does have weaknesses. You take extra damage from fire and ice attacks, which is a cool idea, but when I was walking around Hyrule, I thought to myself, will the freezing water found at Snowpeak instantly kill you with the armor on? I mean, I had never tried this, so I decided to experiment a bit. First I jumped in with the normal tunic on. When I did this, I took just 1 heart of damage, which wasn't a big problem. So then I tried it with the Zora armor on, and man oh man, I took a lot of damage. Way more than I expected. And while it didn't instantly kill me, it could if I had less than 10 hearts. To be honest, I'm quite certain that this is the most damage I have ever taken in this game from a single hit. So I would say that this is plausible. Number 6. One of the weirdest minigames that you encounter in the game has to be Flight by Foul, which is run by this clown of a human called Falby. Truly one of the strangest Hylians seen in the game, and overall his minigame is quite simple. You fly down with a cucco and try to land on one of these platforms while collecting rupees along the way, which is pretty fun and also quite challenging. However, when I was reading about this minigame, I saw that Falby had a funny reaction when you throw all the cuccos overboard. Now this was completely new to me. So I grabbed all the cuccos one by one, which was harder than I thought, and after that, I talked to him. Now when I did, he actually had a unique response. He says, "What? Where did all my cuccos go? Well, I guess you'll have to learn how to fly on your own, partner." So yeah, I was kind of screwed, and as you can see, I didn't get far on my own. But I love that they added this funny reaction, even though almost no one will ever see it. Number 5. Out of all the dungeons seen in Twilight Princess, I would say that one of them is the most controversial. Because in many ways it's fun, but the constant backtracking also makes it a pain and a bit confusing at times. I'm of course talking about Snowpeak Ruins, a sinister old mansion with rich history that is now occupied by a Yeti couple. Now the constant back and forth while looking for the mirror piece is kind of meh, but you do get a great soup out of it, which you can get more of at any time. However, I saw folks online say that you can also get soup back home in Ordon village, because Link has a pot filled with stew right here. So I went back to the place where it all began and tried to fill a bottle with this stuff to see what would happen. But right from the get-go, I saw that I couldn't even use the bottle when I was inside, and no matter what, nothing changed. So you can't even fill your bottle with this stuff, so who knows what its effects would be. And this also means that you always have to go back to Snowpeak Ruins, which kind of sucks. Number 4. Now, while I was in Ordon village, I tried to do something else. As we all know, this place is filled with pumpkins, and you can destroy those to farm some rupees, seeds for the slingshot, and hearts. But after that, you can't destroy them again. These smaller pumpkins first have to grow before you could do all of this again. But is there a way to speed this up? I heard that if you pour water on them, they will grow back right away, which sounds pretty handy, so I gave it a shot. And yeah, they instantly grew back, which I kind of expected because this works in other Zelda games as well. So this isn't the biggest secret, but it's still a fun little detail. Number 3. The Iron Boots, a classic Zelda item that is seen in countless games, including Twilight Princess. And overall, it isn't that special. You can use it to wrestle Gorons, press heavy buttons, or sink to the bottom of a body of water. All of these things are quite simple, but according to folks online, you can also use these to take care of enemies that you encounter in the game. All you need to do is equip the boots, and then just roll towards them. This way you will hit them with the boots. Now I gotta say, this makes sense, but we never saw this in any other title. So can you really damage enemies this way? Well, I found a bunch of boblins close to the hidden village and used them as guinea pigs for this experiment. And yeah, it did quite a lot of damage because 2 rolls is enough to kill them. And the knockback effect is also insane. So this works shockingly well. The only big downside is how slow you are. Man oh man, a snail is faster. But hey, at least this is true. Number 2. Now after crushing some boblins beneath my boot heel, I noticed that I was being bombarded by fire arrows, which was kind of annoying. But I had an idea. A crazy idea that might just work. Can you grab these arrows with the Clawshot mid-air? I mean, it works for items, and an arrow is an item, so maybe it will be more effective than grabbing an enemy. So I positioned myself perfectly and tried to grab them, and the outcome was interesting to say the least. Now I wasn't able to grab the arrow and add it to my inventory, but I was able to deflect them again and again, which was kind of handy, but to be honest, I was going nowhere. Sure, they didn't hit me, but I was stuck. So while this is cool, you can't grab them mid-air, which would have been a great way to farm arrows. Number 1. Collecting things is a staple of a lot of Nintendo games. Since the beginning of time, they added these to almost any title they released, from Pokemon to The Legend of Zelda. So of course, collectibles are also seen in Twilight Princess, with the golden bugs being the most intense one. However, is there a way to make catching them easier? Well, according to some, you can actually use the lantern to catch the flying bugs because they will be attracted to it. Now, when I read this, I became quite excited to try it, because it could make my next playthrough a whole lot easier. But when I first tried it, these butterflies didn't care at all, so I was a bit confused. However, then I thought to myself, maybe it only works at night. So I tried it here, close to Hyrule Castle, and boom, all of a sudden it worked. And man oh man, it works well. Clearly the claim is true, which I already expected, to be honest. Now those were all the myths we had for this video, but don't be sad because I made a ton of these videos about a lot of different Zelda games and even Super Mario, so be sure to check them out. And don't forget, leave your ideas below so that you can be included in the next video. And if you certainly want to be included in the video, then become a member because your comments will be at the top of my list. Aside from that, be sure to leave a like and subscribe so you won't miss the next upload.